Right. Let's be seated. We want to make sure we use every minute we have. My name is Jay Helvey, and on behalf of the New Canaan Society of Winston-Salem, Love Out Loud, and on behalf of Wake Forest, we want to welcome everyone to this evening, a discussion with Tim Keller on the relevancy of Christianity in today's world. That's exciting. And President Hatch, we really want to thank Wake Forest for opening the doors to the community, a free event that we can meet here and have this discussion. I just think that's great, so thank you. Professor Jed McCosco, thank you for your involvement. And we also want to thank Nancy and Stu Epperson for the inspiration of putting this on and their support and making it happen. Thank you. And Tim and Kathy Keller, thank you for coming down. And as Tim has already admitted, it kind of helps when you have a grandchild in Winston-Salem to accept the offer. So we'll remember that, and there'll probably be recurring offers coming. And you know, what a great place to have this event. The vision of the event was in some ways modeled after Socrates in the city. Some of you may be familiar with that, but get people together, believers and seekers, to come ask the tough questions that you might not ask in church, and as Stu Epperson said, with people with brains. Now, I don't think that means there's not brains in the church, so don't quote me on that, but you know, just to have a discussion where we can weigh things, and so we're so fortunate to have Tim to do that tonight. And I think the other fitting thing about having it here at Wake Forest, if you look to my right and to my left, the seal of Wake Forest, you know, on the bottom, pro humanitate, for humanity, and I think the deeper understanding of that is human flourishing. Human flourishing. And flourishing, we know, is related to truth, and truth is related to Jesus. In fact, if you look at the seal, it's got Chi Rho, the Christogram, the first two initials of Christ's name. It has Alpha and Omega from Revelation, the name of Jesus. And if you look, those lines coming out, that's the light. That's the light from John of Jesus. And President Taylor talked about Wake Forest, its agency being taking that light to the community and places beyond. So it's very appropriate and fitting we are gathered here tonight to do that. So thank you all for coming out and supporting the event. Now it's my privilege to introduce Professor Jed McCosco, who is, I can't say a rising star, he's an established star and beloved faculty member here at Wake Forest. He's a friend, active in our New Canaan Society. Jed's an associate professor of biochemistry, and he graduated undergraduate from MIT with distinction, University of California, Berkeley for his doctorate. He did postdoctorate work at the National Institute of Health, I guess it's in Washington, D.C. Is that where it was? No, yeah. And after that, as adjunct professor at the University of New Mexico with Dr. David Keller. And Tim, I don't know if it's related to you, but I think he's very smart as well. So the other thing I'd say about Jed, in addition to all of his, all the work he does as a faculty member, and he's published a lot, he really is. Wake Forest tries to model a teaching scholar environment, and Jed very much models that here. He's also the director of Learning Looking Glass, which is a startup nonprofit really trying to take technology to the majority world. Very exciting, learningLookingGlass.org if you want more information on that. He's married to his lovely wife, Cecilia, who's also a doctor, a medical doctor. And this is great. Given all they have, and they've got 5 children, a busy household, they authored a study guide to Oswald Chambers, My Utmost for His Highest, which I've enjoyed personally reading. And how one with your schedule and your wife are able to put out a book like that, I don't know. But it's great. Go get a copy of that. 5 children. Now, here's what we do have in common. I didn't go to MIT or Berkeley, that's for sure. But father of 5 children, and Jed and I and our wives, we share the distinction of being adoptive parents and having children that were born in Ethiopia, which has, I know, been a blessing for you guys and a blessing for us. My friend, Professor Jed McCosco.
Thank you, Jay. And a special thank you to all of you who have made time in your busy schedules to come tonight to this lecture. So why are we here at this lecture? We're here to find out truth, because truth drives out our doubts, and doubts are what hold us back. What we need is we need to acknowledge that we have these doubts. Everyone has doubts. We doubt that the road we're on in life is the right road. We doubt that we're going to be able to make it, that we're good enough. We doubt that we're able to get through this semester without a panicked phone call to our moms crying. And I'm talking about the professors here. We're just barely making it, right? We need an expert. We need somebody who can help us find the truth. What we need is somebody who has the background that it takes to reveal truth in a logical, easy to understand way. Somebody who is a published author of a New York Times bestseller, somebody who has trained thousands of pastors and other people in these kinds of questions that we want to know about, somebody who has planted churches, started churches that are lighthouses that show people the way to truth. We need Dr. Timothy J. Keller. Let's give him a round of applause. Now, by the way, I found out about Tim that he and his wife, Kathy, do you want to stand up? Let's give her a round of applause, too. Enjoy watching Star Trek together. So this is a guy that we can all really relate to. Let's give him one more very good Wake Forest, Winston-Salem welcome. Thank you, Dr. Tim Keller.
Okay. See, as a minister, that was in there somewhere, I'm a minister, which means I'm actually not an expert on anything at all. Nothing. Even the Bible, I learned from people who have degrees in this. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades, and I hope that will come. That will be a help for you tonight, because this question, does Christianity even make sense anymore? Does it even make sense anymore? Let's start with, of course, like we should, justifying why I'm doing the lecture. Because somebody might say, oh, that's an easy answer. That shouldn't take you whatever number of minutes you're going to take. Does Christianity even make sense anymore? The answer is, yeah, to some people, but fewer and fewer. Because the world's getting less and less religious, and America's getting less and less religious. In 2015, early 2015, there was a blockbuster study released by Pew Research Center that said that younger Americans in particular were considerably less religious. That is to say that something like 30% of millennials would check the box no religious preference, which is a way of saying either I don't know if there is a God, I certainly don't believe in any particular religion. That's far higher than in the past. So the narrative, and almost the consensus of the media, is that Europe has already started to lose religion. It's declined there. Now it's going to start to decline in America. And of course, religion in America generally means Christianity. And therefore, yeah, some people will find Christianity making sense, but fewer and fewer. So why are we spending all this time on this question? And I think the right answer, to justify the rest of the lecture, which I think is a helpful thing to do, is to say that just 2 months later, there was another Pew Research Center blockbuster survey done, another religious survey, religious census survey that almost nobody picked up. Though the Washington Post did have one article on it, and the headline was, "World expected to get more religious, not less." Because what the new study showed, by looking at the world, not just America, was that today there's something like 17% of the population of the world that says we're secular or there's no religious preference. 17% say we're secular or no religious preference. In 2050, that number will be down to 12% of the population. You know why? Because while white people, especially in Western countries, are becoming more secular, non-white people and non-Western countries, that's just not happening. Christianity, religion in general, and Christianity in particular, is growing much faster than the population of the rest of the world. And therefore, these two narratives are wrong. A, religion is dying out. Just not going to happen. But B, God is making a comeback. You see, what's actually going to happen is the world in general is going to become more religious, and yet there will be pockets of Western countries that will be more deeply secular than there ever been in the past in human societies. And what that means is this. This question is hugely important. If you're not a Christian and you want to understand your world, you better try to understand why Christianity makes sense to so many people, a growing number. If you are a Christian, and yet you're going to be living with far more secular people than Christians have lived with in the past, you have to be able to answer that question, why does Christianity even make sense? So this is actually an extremely important question. I wish I hadn't spent as much time as I did on the introduction. But let's move then to the next part of this. So if that's the case, how do you make sense of any religion? Before we get to Christianity, how do you make sense of religion in general? In fact, isn't it true, and this is, let me take this on, this is what I think the average person in America would say, isn't it true that if you come to believe in no God, that happens